Okay, being 3 o'clock, we will call to order the Marathon County Extension Education Economics Development Committee. Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. I would like to introduce the committee members. We have Supervisor Becky Book, who's Vice Chair, Supervisor Crystal Bushman, Supervisor Kim Unger, Supervisor Dave Baker, and Supervisor Tom Rosenberg, and myself, Rick Seefeld, and our supporting staff. Thank you. Public comment? No public comment. Number 4, approve the January 4th EED committee minutes, I mean. Motion by Supervisor Rosenberg, second by Supervisor Book. All those in favor say aye. 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 Opposed? Aye. Motion's carried. Number 5, policy issues, discussion, and potential committee determination. Number 6, operational functions required by statute, ordinance, resolution, or policy. 6A, for providing recommendation relative to the items including in the Administrator's 2024 annual work plan. Lance?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I'll try to be brief. The 2023 year-end update to the work plan is in your packet. I'm not going to go through it. It's simply there to hopefully provide some context for what I hope is your discussion regarding any recommendations you have for items to be included in 2024. So the only things I'll kind of highlight are, in my mind, a couple of rollover projects that, of course, you can see from the 2023 document, things that perhaps weren't fully completed. These are things that I think from this committee's perspective, based on your specific role and responsibility under the ordinances, you would be particularly interested in. First is the kind of our wrap up to our Lakeview campus renovation and the relocation of some departments. A couple of the departments that, or at least one of the departments that you work with, of course, UW Extension, is planned to be part of that relocation at the end of this year or early in 2025. So just wanted to flag that as a carryover project for you. Also, given your role in economic development, just to let you know, one other rollover project is to continue to assist the HR Finance and Property Committee in its effort to develop some processes and policies that would guide the divestment of county-owned facilities and properties. Because, of course, as we do consolidate our operational footprint with some of the work we're doing with the Lakeview campus, that does open up the potential for that redevelopment, which certainly has an economic development component. Similarly, this committee is well aware of the work that needs to be done in 2024 relative to the negotiation of conduit bonding agreements with the entities that have approached the county and the single entity that the county board has provided direction to proceed at this point with that negotiation. I'm hoping that that will go well, and I did actually have some contact earlier this week and have a meeting actually hopefully tomorrow to kind of start that process. But that, of course, will be a big part of at least the initial part of 2024. This committee certainly, as all standing committees, there's been a request for regular financial reporting to standing committees that I put that on the work plan to have those quarterly financial reports to standing committees for departments under their jurisdiction. That's on my draft plan to provide to the full board. And then just two other things that I haven't put on there yet, but I thought, in preparing for this committee that may be of interest to you. Again, welcome some direction and discussion today. But recently, at your December meeting, the full board adopted the resolution that was developed from this committee regarding the role of Marathon County government relative to the housing shortage. So if you think from that work that this committee did that there is a role for administration in assisting you in your work or overseeing the direction of some of the things that you thought were appropriate to move forward from that resolution, perhaps that would be something you'd want included on the work plan. And then just historically, I was reflecting on kind of the evolution of the work of this committee over the last several years. And when I joined administration as the deputy administrator, there was a fund that this committee annually through the budget had, and I believe it was $50,000. And the committee then would receive periodically throughout the year requests for funding from local events or entities. I can think of two, but these requests would come in for projects that related to economic development. And the entities would request funding. And of course, your ability to allocate funding is constrained by the laws under Chapter 59. But I recall this committee having historically provided funding for some work being done by the Chamber of Commerce, the local Chamber of Commerce, in terms of some studies. Similarly, the International Ginseng Festival approached this committee, and my recollection again is that was a number of years ago, but my recollection was that the committee did authorize some funding there as well. That, of course, has not been a function of the budget the last several years. My recollection is that the funding was transitioned to UW Extension for purposes of funding a position a number of years ago, but with kind of, again, the events coming back to the area, some potential large events, and the recent news relative to the Taste and Glow event, that just made me reflect on kind of the role that this committee historically had. And in my mind, it's somewhat similar to what municipalities have and do with respect to their room tax dollars. But of course, the county doesn't get those room tax dollars. So that's just kind of a recap of kind of what I see as carryover projects, and perhaps some areas, if you do wish to kind of go back to how that role that the committee used to perform, I'd be happy to add those things or not. I mean, it's really up to this committee. So I was just trying to get you started, but my job really for the rest of the meeting is to listen. And answer any questions you might have, but it's really to kind of help me develop that draft work plan for the full board to consider in your future meetings. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Lance. I know I was on this committee when we did allocate money for educational functions that went in throughout the county. And I do believe that the Ginseng Fest, I could be mistaken, but I think it was like $15,000, somewhere's in there. I think it was. And we had other requests, I know, from the chamber, and it's basically being used for educational presentations like the Ginseng Fest or any other educational parts that would go through Marathon County. But any questions? Supervisor Rosenberg?
Yeah, am I remembering it wrong, or wasn't there $50,000 in the 2024 budget that the full board kicked out, or was that something else? Am I remembering it correctly?
I think you're correct on both fronts. The $50,000 was in the budget, but that was specifically in my proposed budget. It was to aid in the work that you did to determine a county role for both housing, which you've already completed through your resolution in terms of identifying the role, but also childcare, which is also on your agenda for discussion today. It was not kind of the situation or allocation that Chair Seefeld referenced. That, again, I can't recall when that was taken out of the budget, but I believe that took place in connection with a position in UW Extension being created.
I think it was taken out in 18 or 19, somewhere's in there. I was only on the board for 2 years, and then it got taken out. I'm not sure, but I know it's been quite a few years. So, any other questions? Anyone on WebEx for questions? But I do think we probably should pursue this, and because there is going to be more educational functions that are coming up in the county, and if we can help them out, it would be great. But that's my opinion. But do we want the administrator to pursue maybe going with this and see what we come up with and bring it back for next month or down the road? Supervisor Rosenberg?
Yeah, I'd like to see us pursue it anyway, at this point, and see what happens.
So if that's a desire of the committee, I think right now, then I'll put something on the work plan along the lines of identifying a potential funding mechanism and policy for the Extension Education Economic Development Committee to consider relative to provide financial support for organizations or events that would be permissible under Chapter 59. I'll have to phrase that, of course. I'm just thinking off the top of my head, so it's never really very polished. But if that's something, I'm not going to have that stuff for you next month, but I can put in the work plan for the full board to prioritize, and perhaps the full board keeps it in or takes it out. But I'm really going to all the committees. And I should have said this before, but if there's a challenge you see in our community that you think the board should address, and you want administration to come up with, some potential ways to address it or evaluate something, that's how I've used the work plan. I mean, I view quite honestly, about 80% of my time is tied up with things that aren't on the work plan. It's just the running of the organization. It's the other free time that I try to allocate to addressing special projects and working with department heads to carry them out, because certainly the things that are on the administration work plan are not things that I do alone. It's quite opposite. It's other people doing a lot of the work. I just try to keep track of where we are. So I can put something together and to do that. Does this committee, do you think there's a need to have something relating to housing on there based on your resolution? Or do you think it's pretty much completed? Or we can leave that for another day too.
Yeah,
I can make a comment.
I was going to say that, on the housing part of it, if something does come up, we'd like to be kept informed of what's happening, but right now I haven't really heard anything going on about housing right now. But is Supervisor Baker, do you have any comments?
Yes, thank you. So, in my opinion, I would prefer to see us keep the work plan a little more focused and not add extra items. I'd like to see us get our financial reporting so that we're getting monthly reports against budget. And I'd like that to be a focus. It's not necessarily for Triple ED, but I again, our committee is going to change. We only have 2 more months before, the committee changes to different members. So I don't know that it makes sense for us to set, a different direction that we haven't discussed previously, right now. So I'd like to just see us focus on, I'd like to see us focus on financial reporting and getting monthly financial reports in a timely manner. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Baker. Any other questions for Lance? Okay, thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Greatly appreciated.
Good luck with the plan. Okay, moving on to Marathon County's role in providing affordable, high-quality external child care. The child care resolution. Now, Supervisor Baker, I do believe that you were going to put some changes in there, but I am not sure if that happened. Sorry for
I can address that.
miscommunications here. So, okay, go ahead, Dave, or Ms. Supervisor Baker.
Thank you. So we have not put together, I and no one else as far as I'm aware, updated the child care resolution. We, as you're all aware, we passed the child care resolution, previously sent it to the board. There was a request to have that delayed so that we could have more discussions with the community, specifically with the Chamber of Commerce with child caring. And we can put together an updated resolution. I'll work on that for the next, probably for next month. But what we have done is we had requests that the county be willing to meet with various parties in our county to discuss childcare and to search for some solutions to the shortage of childcare. So we have formed an unofficial work group. We had our first meeting last week, and I'll talk about that. But I've also put a post on my blog, supervisorbaker.blog, which basically gives the who was there and with the agenda and that thing. So if you're more interested, you can go to my blog and read that. But we met last Friday with 2 individuals from child caring. Kelly was on the meeting and Mickey. And then also Kim Weber from McDevco, who's at our meeting today, I believe, also was there. Dave Ekman and Renee Krings from the Chamber of Commerce. Krista Jensen, the Social Service Director. And then we had 4 supervisors there, myself, and Supervisor Limmer, Supervisor Robinson, and Supervisor Marash. So we have an agenda, and that's, again, on my post. But one of the main things that we looked at is we wanted to try to come up with goals and objectives for the group, things that we thought were feasible for the county to achieve, things that we could agree on. We had a good discussion on that. I wouldn't say we have reached a resolution on that yet, but we have identified some areas that we want to look at. One of the areas is how businesses can participate in childcare, which we have discussed before. And there's some legislative bills in the state that are coming up that may have an impact on that. And the chamber is also going to have a CEO meeting, I believe, later this month. Our unofficial work group is going to meet again early in March after those 2 have occurred. In our next meeting, Social Service Director Jensen and Kelly are going to provide us with more information on what some of the barriers to entry for family childcare are, because as we're aware, the certified family childcare has dropped like 90% over the last 15 or 20 years. So we want to look at what are some of the reasons for that, if there are regulations that cause that, if there's one of the things that came up is it's hard to get insurance now for childcare in your home. So, that may be a barrier to entry. So we want to take a look at that and kind of define what the problems are that are, keeping people from having childcare in their home. And then there's some, that doesn't cover everything that we discussed. There are other things we're looking at as well. But so we have a work group that's, supervisors talking to the community and trying to come up with solutions. So we'll keep EED updated with, our results. And, we'll come back with, at some point, probably next month, but maybe later, we'll come back with another resolution for the board to consider. But we're basically doing what was asked by the community, that they wanted to have discussions and wanted us to participate, and work together to see how we can solve the childcare shortage. So that is ongoing. And, we're obviously open for input from people who have comments or, have suggestions. So if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer. Kelly is here as well, so she can contribute as well.
Thank you, Supervisor Baker. We have questions. Supervisor Rosenberg?
Yeah, we were supposed to have that done August 31st, which clearly we didn't get to. But as you said, and I'm glad you're keeping an eye on it, the legislation, I think the state assembly just passed something for a tax credit yesterday, and I think they sent it on to the state Senate. There's stuff with workforce development and childcare that the governor's trying to get through, and then a tax cut and a whole bunch of things there's a lot of moving parts happening right now, and I'd hate to see us leap in a not very constructive way, and not really hit the target that we're trying to hit while we're waiting. And I think the legislature meets into April, perhaps. So, I'm not seeing that this is urgent at this point. So that's all I have to say.
I'd like to make another comment.
Go ahead, Supervisor Baker.
So just for clarification, I would say that we did meet our objective that was laid out, that we would provide a childcare resolution. And we didn't make it by August, but we did that. That was the first step. That was what was in the strategic plan, and that was done by our committee. So, that's been completed. The full board asked us to take a look at it, but I think that's a different timeline. I don't think that's on the same, we're not under that August timeline anymore, because we completed that step, in my opinion. So,
yeah,
Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Baker. I do think the same, that we did meet the August deadline for at least keep working on it, and I would like to have you, Supervisor Baker, keep me in the loop on how this is going. I would appreciate it. So, thank you very much.
You're welcome. We'll do that.
Yes, thank you. Okay, any other questions? Okay, moving on to number 7, educational presentations and committee discussion. 7A, potential discussion about horticulture program priorities with Janelle, is it Weir? Okay, Janelle's online, I think, on WebEx.
I am. Can you hear me?
Thank you. Yes, we can.
Okay, perfect. And I believe somebody is going to show a slide deck while I talk. Is that correct?
Yep, we're working on it.
Perfect. Thank you.
Okay.
Awesome.
Go ahead, Janelle.
Fantastic. Well, hello, everyone. My name is Janelle Ware. I am your Extension horticulture educator. I serve Marathon and Wood counties. Presently, I'm at 70% Wood County 70% Marathon County, and I also serve Wood County at 30%. Before we jump any further, I just wanted to share a quick thought about the picture that's in that slide up in the right-hand corner. This is right out front of Addict Services, and I'm the one that's taking the picture, and I'm working with folks who are involved with drug court and community service. So right there, they are putting in some flowers. I believe it was begonias for like a little landscaping project that we did together. So it gives you at least a little peek of some of the work that we're doing. So where are we going today? We're going to start off, I'm going to share some, the 4 program outcomes that come with the horticulture program. I'm going to talk a little bit about the current programming that I'm doing, some past partnerships that I've had, and then I'll talk real briefly about some future partnerships that I'm excited about. So when we think about the horticulture program, we've got 4 main horticulture program outcomes that we are trying to achieve. We're addressing with these outcomes. So the first one is going to be, just want to make sure what I'm saying is matching what you're seeing. So the first one that we talk about a lot is pollinator decline, how we can support habitats and reduce habitat loss. Next, we've got mitigation and adaptation strategies related to climate change. Another one would be pollution due to misuse of horticultural products. That's going to be basically pesticide and fertilizer misuse. And then finally, improving the mental, social, and physical health through positive gardening experiences. So let's talk a little bit about the current programs that I've got going on. And as you look inside your package, you're going to see I laid out all of this information in a nice chart. So if you want to follow along or if you need to go back and look, all this information is inside the handout that I included with the packet today. So first, we've got answering horticulture questions. This is something that just anybody within the community can reach out to the Extension office. So my audience is general public. People have questions regarding anything from what's wrong with my tree, it's got weird spots on it, to why don't my tomatoes grow right, or, you know, how can I improve soil health in my yard? So general public answers those questions. I'm really shooting towards those pollution outcomes, how to reduce misuse. When it comes to that community value or economic impact, it's really about the consumer. I'm working with consumers across the county. And so I'm shooting to reduce the money and the time spent on solutions that either don't work at all or potentially might be adding to pollution to our environment. Next, we've got Gaining Ground. So this is a partnership with Addict Services. I work with folks who have either court-mandated community service hours or they're involved with drug court. As far as the program outcome that I'm connecting here, it's that social well-being, right? And what my audience, what I'm hoping that they're getting out of that programming is some real basic green industry skills, potentially helping them get a leg up to get a job, gain some employment. That could be really anything from...
Grab a glass of water.
Apologize for that. I am sorry. I'm at home today because I'm not feeling well and I didn't want to contaminate y'all, and my Google Voice just started talking. I apologize. Anyways, so what we're working towards is some green industry skills, as well as positive self-regulation and soft skills like how to get along with others. These are going to be important things that if we've got some justice-involved individuals, these are going to be things that are going to help keep them moving in the direction that we need them to move. Next, I've got some regular programming, some partnerships that I do basically monthly programming. So that's going to be the Marathon County Public Library System. So I do monthly programming right here in Wausau at the Wausau branch. And I also have been trying to branch out. So last year I did a few programs at the Hatley branch. I'm going to continue with some programming at the Hatley branch this year, as well as I'm going to get out to Stratford for a couple of programs too. So I'm excited about those. Here, we're really trying with the general public, I try to connect with that pollution outcome, but also any way that we can get individuals engaged with their communities is important to help with that positive well-being. The community impact, what everyone's getting out of this, or how, where those dollars are going towards, how is this helping out? But basically the so what, it comes down to less pollution and less money that's being utilized on solutions that probably either are going to negatively impact the environment or potentially not do any good at all and just waste time. I'm also doing some programming at the Landing over at the Woodson YMCA. Those are specifically for individuals who are 55 and older. That partner, their purpose of their programming is specifically for positive social engagement. Elders they're in a particularly vulnerable place with social isolation being negative towards them. And so the Landing's main goal is social well-being, but a lot of my programming there also speaks towards pollution. I also do regular programming over in Mosinee. The Mosinee School District has a community education program. It's not necessarily directed towards high school students, although I guess they could come if they wanted to. This is mostly for adults in the community. So general public is my main audience. Anybody within the Mosinee area that wants to come, they're welcome to come. Trying to get towards that pollution. The majority of my programs are pollution centered, but also, anytime we can get community members to connect with each other, that's a positive towards community connection. Again, with that pollution, it really comes down to less pollution and less money less pollution and less time and money that's wasted. I also serve on an advisory committee over at NTC for their Garden to Market certification program. And there, it's just really kind of making people aware of, I'm sorry, I'm drawing a blank. It comes down to economic development, really keeping people engaged and working right here in Marathon County. I think finally my last one on the list is going to be Sowing Success. So Sowing Success is a 12-week beginning horticulture program. I do this from September to December. It's really just a real basic intro to horticulture. Anybody who's familiar with the extension programming, and if you're familiar with the Master Gardeners, you may be aware of the training that the Master Gardeners are required to have. This is that, but it's opened up to anybody in the public. Really exciting. Last fall, I had 16 participants make it through the program. Here, we're really getting towards that pollution. Also, volunteer development for anybody who wants to continue on and become a Master Gardener. So some of my previous partnerships that I have had the opportunity to engage with are veteran services within Marathon County. I also have worked with, with veteran services, the name of the program was Green Team. I was trying to engage veterans into some therapeutic gardening opportunities. I have also worked with the women's community as well as the Hmong American Center. Just to give a little bit of feedback here, or give a little bit of background here, with the women's community and the Hmong American Center, that programming started because we had a food wise educator in our office who is Hmong, and she was already doing some really great work in the community. And so I utilized that as an opportunity to connect with the Hmong community. And we were able to co-program for a little while. And unfortunately, she accepted a position someplace else within Extension. And so I don't have that natural lead into the Hmong community. And so, in particular, with the women's community, once Ganu was out of the picture, I think there wasn't as much buy-in from their participants. And so eventually the women's community's domestic violence survivors support group basically disbanded because there just wasn't that much interest. The Hmong American Center, I was doing some programming once a month with their ADRC senior dinner. They have a senior dinner Thursday nights, and I was coming once a month, again, with Ganu. But by losing Ganu, I kind of lost my lead into that programming. With veteran services, I think I still believe in the idea, and I was hoping that potentially I would have a little bit of buy-in because I have a daughter who is a staff sergeant in the National Guard. So I was hoping I could get a little bit of connection with them. Unfortunately, I just simply didn't have the participants. Nobody really showed up. And so I finally accepted that perhaps there wasn't a need. Tried to connect with a lot of different veteran groups within the community. But if there's not a need, there's not a need. So some future partnerships. The connection that I was making with the women's community, that was specifically a Hmong domestic violence survivors support group. They have many other support groups. And so I have connected with our new FoodWise educator to see if there are potential opportunities for programming. They seemed receptive to the idea, and so now we're just going to follow up this spring. The United Way has please forgive me for not remembering the folks who were involved, but the people who own Evolutions bought the old Neighbors Place location. In case you're not aware, the old Neighbors Place location has a fantastic community garden space behind the building. And so the new owner has engaged the United Way for potentially taking that space and turning it into a community garden, but in particular with a therapeutic gardening focus. And so I have been plugged in with that group, and I am hopeful to develop, well, I've already got some programming developed for them that I can just plug right in. And I'm hoping to connect with them, and maybe with this could be a really great partnership. So finally, I'm just here to ask, what do you see as the needs in the community? And I'm hopeful to hear and very supportive of hearing any feedback that you've got for me, either now or if you want to marinate on it too. My email address is in the packet. So if you think of, 2:00 in the morning, you think of a partner that you're like, oh, you know what, this might be a great opportunity to connect, feel free to reach out to me.
Thank you, Janelle. Any questions from the committee? Well, I think you are keeping yourself pretty busy, and probably next week you'll be able to go up and sow some seed if this weather keeps going. Again, thank you much, Janelle, and get well. Okay, moving on to 7B, Marathon County Regional Agricultural Education Position. Jeremy?
All right. Thank you. Good afternoon, everybody. So this discussion is just kind of an introductory discussion that we'll follow up with in the next month. But I want to give you a little bit of background and kind of the situation that we're in, and kick off the conversation. Again, we'll get into more details next month. But So as you all know or might remember, I serve 4 counties, Clark, Wood, and Portage, in addition to Marathon County. And the rest of the state's all broken up into areas. And our area, the area that I serve, is the last one in the state that has county-based agriculture educators. The rest of the state has moved into a model of regional educators. And the reason for that is that there was a state budget cut about 8 years ago now that reduced the number of positions within Extension. And so we couldn't provide educators in every county within the Ag Institute. And so the regional model was developed to try to equitably distribute agriculture education positions across the state. And basically that model has got implemented through kind of attrition as people retired or moved on, then the counties were combined into regions. So we're at that point now that we are looking at this because of a recent retirement in Clark County. Our crops and soils educator, Richard Halupka, is retiring in February, a week and a half out from now. And as we look to replace that position, we won't be able to do that at a county level, but it'll be at a multi-county level. And what makes sense to us at this point is to combine either 2 or 3 counties into a region. So we're still trying to get a sense of kind of where that's at and how we approach that, which is one reason why I don't have a whole lot more details for you right now, but we're moving in that way. Essentially what this will mean for Marathon County is from my perspective, it's access to additional resources. So right now we have one ag educator in the county, that's Heather, who focuses on dairy and particularly reproduction in dairy herds. The regional model provides 2 educators in a region, so both a dairy educator or a livestock educator and a crops and soils educator. And so we, within Marathon County, gain kind of that area of specialization, and those positions focus on soil health, support, for crops, but also with a heavy emphasis on protecting water quality type work, conservation practices. So either if there are 2 counties, essentially Marathon County would have kind of the same funding level, but an additional educator. If we move to 3 counties, it'd be slightly less cost to Marathon County and access to the 2 educators, spread across those 3 counties. So that's where we're at right now, is basically looking at the potential for that. I'm happy to take any questions, but also my plan is to come back next month with essentially a proposal for what that will look like specifically in Marathon County and what other counties will be included in that region. And we're having those same conversations with all the other counties as well. But happy to take any questions that are on kind of the top of your mind right now.
Do we have any questions for Jeremy?
I have a question.
Okay, Supervisor Baker.
Could you give us an idea of like how many farmers would be involved with, we would reach in a year, and like percentage of the county in total for the dairy? Yeah,
like if there would be a change, Supervisor Baker? Is that what you're wondering?
Well, currently, and then if there was a change, sure.
Yeah, I don't have the numbers on top of my head, but I can definitely pull those for you. I don't think there would be a massive change on the dairy side, just given how we currently do programming. I think that will, Heather would still be the regional dairy educator, so all of those connections would still be there. So I don't really expect a decline in that, but I do expect to be able to reach more farmers who are not dairy farmers but are raising crops, and so I think there's the potential upside there. But I can pull together some numbers from Heather's work so that you can see at least what's there now, and try to ballpark, but it would be a guess of like what our future numbers. But I don't really see a decline in the service of the number of farmers.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Well, I can see it leaning as the future's going here, getting, the dairy is getting less and less and more into crop. And I can sure agree with the change that would be coming up. So, okay, thank you. Moving on to 7C, McDevco. This is Kim.
Hello, everybody. A lot of redundancy from last month, but some exciting updates. So we continue to support small businesses with financing, education, and municipality partnership and collaboration. So we do administer the Marathon County Revolving Loan Fund as well as other revolving loan funds to support small businesses where we're funding up to 40% of a total project should there be a need for that equity. We also have a new program. It's the McDevco microloan. So that's up to $25,000 where we're not working with a lead bank. We're acting as that lender. The really great part is it's 3% interest. The uses are flexible and the terms are quite favorable. So we've been doing a lot of active promoting of this. So if you know of anybody that this would be a good fit for that has a small business in Marathon County, please have them reach out. We began administering as well the private on-site wastewater treatment system revolving loan fund in fall of 2023. We've dispersed about $35,000 thus far, with $70,000 or so, a little above that, committed for spring. So we're continuing to process applications through the winter here, which doesn't quite feel like winter. So if you know of anybody in rural Marathon County that is in need of a septic replacement, have them contact us as well. You can see what we administered for COVID grants with the Marathon County funds for CARES. We've dispersed a little over $700,000 countywide for those impacted by the COVID pandemic that were in business prior to March of 2020. We had a really nice programming calendar for 2023. I just want to highlight that we had a very successful GEAR certificate program. That's our 12-week program where we're guiding entrepreneurs through a lot of the considerations they should think about if they're launching a business. We'll be running that again this fall and then altering the programming that we offer throughout the year. So as you can see, last year we did some strategic planning and other workshops that were very specific for those businesses looking to repivot their business coming out of COVID. This year we're shifting into things such as sales and use tax education, something that folks really need to understand, exemptions, how does use tax work, all of those questions we get consistently. We're doing a social media marketing class about the algorithms of Facebook, social media, Instagram, and we're tailoring some more of our programming throughout the year, including the EEC tenant information session where we give them an overview of financing. So as they think about expanding their business and potentially purchasing their own space, how can we help with the connection we have to the municipalities, vacant spaces, but also financing. We do host quarterly municipality meetings. The next one will be end of February at the new healthcare center building. So we're very excited about that. And then we reported an 88% occupancy in December for the Entrepreneurial and Education Center, the business incubator we manage. So we are 100% full in manufacturing, 76% full in office space. And we have a new kitchen use policy that will encourage serious users utilizing our kitchen to get a launching point within our facility. That's all I have. Any questions?
Any questions for Kim? I have one with sitting on the ERC committee too. How many people have approached, getting money for septic systems? Do you know offhand?
Applications we've received, I don't know the exact number offhand, but we are working very closely with CPZ when they're sending those notices and just collaborating very closely to make sure that we're offering our loan fund as well as the Wisconsin fund that they're administering.
Right. Okay, thank you. Any other questions for Kim? Thank you much, Kim. 7D, Library Monthly Report. Leah?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Hello, everyone. Just as we were sitting here, I got an email from our event coordinator, and he has some kind of amazing stats. So I want to start with that, and I'll go back to the packet and updates that I have. So it looks like in 2023, we hosted a total of 931 programs compared to 434 in 2022. So we doubled our amount of programming. I don't know how, because we have the same amount of staff and we run a thin, tight ship, but that's kind of miraculous. And then he also wrote, because we're preparing for our annual report, so all of these stats are coming up now because he's pulling all of the data. We keep track of all of our programming and attendance and things like that. But he said that we also more than doubled by a wide margin the attendance of in-person programs. So in 2022, we had about 8,400 people attend our programs, which is outstanding. If you think about it, over 8,000 people came to one of our libraries to attend our programs. But that sounds actually pretty sad compared to 2023, where we were at 18,925 people. So 18,925 people were in attendance at some program at one of our branches in 2023. So I think that's kind of amazing. We had 10,500 more people into our libraries than we did last year. So that's a really good sign that we're coming back to like normal standard circulation, attendance, programming levels, and we're really, really happy about it. Also, today was just a wild day at the library. First of all, we had the display walls for our art cluster exhibit show up. At exactly the same time that our giant Triceratops skeleton showed up. I think I mentioned that last month. Well, it arrived today, so we have a new employee. It's a Triceratops. If you come to the Wausau Main Library and you just go straight back towards our newspapers and magazines, you'll see our new friend. And we don't have a name yet. Maybe we'll have a name competition. I think people dig that, yeah. But it's gorgeous, it's enormous, it's insane. I think we're gonna light it from below so that when you drive down First Street, you think there is a dinosaur in the library, because there is. Hopefully also, not just for fun, we're going to have some educational information, just like we do with our aquarium, where we have all of the fish listed so everybody can learn something when they come and look at these exhibits, and probably do some programming around it. But we're very grateful. Sad that Colossal Fossils is no longer doing their thing, but happy that they thought of us to donate their very large dinosaur skeleton. So that happened today. It was exciting. All hands on deck. We were just, it also had to be brought in through the loading dock, and it happens to be the big 3-day book sale. So we had to take this Triceratops skull through the book sale while it was happening, although I think it was a hit. The people that were there shopping for books were really delighted and excited and not at all annoyed that a giant dinosaur was going through their space. On that note, the big book sale is this weekend. It started yesterday, and I think if you show up late on Saturday, they have a $5 bag sale. So you can just grab a paper bag and fill it with books, and it's $5. All of that fundraising, of course, goes to primarily library programming. All of our programming, 100% of our programming, is fundraised money. And every year we make a request to the Friends, and based on their fundraising efforts over the year, they give us money so that we can have all of these amazing programs that I just talked about earlier. They also fund aquarium upkeep. That's something that's split between the Friends and the Foundation. So that's all donated money too, so that we can keep our fish fed and healthy and happy, and families love it. So yeah, it's a couple of exhibits, a couple of exciting things happening. I am attending Library Legislative Day on Monday. The day is actually on Tuesday. I have my schedule already set to meet with legislators. This is something that happens every year, where library professionals go to Madison and talk to legislators about the importance of libraries in people's communities, and just give them stories and show how we add value all over the state. So that's something that we're doing Monday and Tuesday. I also have SIR Law in Madison on Monday. if I make it there in time. Otherwise, I'll be doing it virtually from our shuttle. A last thing here that I want to talk about is our strategic plan update. I've been touching on it over several months. We're really in like high action right now as far as developing the actual plan. All of our data is in. We've received, I would say hundreds, what was it, Becky, maybe like 400 surveys. They had in-person Q&A boards at all of our branch locations. We did one-on-one interviews. You were a contact, Lance, I believe, so thank you for speaking to our consultants. They just had key members of the community talking to them about, opportunities that they see for libraries. And so all of that data is being collected, and there was a presentation given, I think it was last week, to the strategic plan steering committee, where they went through all of this data, and based on that, they gave us an assignment. I think they called it a theming worksheet. So everyone on the steering committee, based on that presentation, has put down their thoughts on what seemed to be the primary themes that arose between the one-on-one, key stakeholder interviews, the surveys from patrons and non-patrons alike. We were really lucky to get, I think about 10% of our surveys were from people who don't use the library. And I think we worked really hard to get that because usually only the people that will fill out the surveys for the library are people that use the library all the time. And we wanted to know, what do the people who don't use the library want to see? What would make them come in, and that's kind of a hard target to grasp. So we worked really hard on that. So we got a lot of good data. The theming worksheets are coming in, and then the library board in January had a brief discussion on mission and vision statements. As I believe, and the consultants believe, that's the big umbrella kind of vision that should be guided by our board, of course. And so the board decided that after we see some of that data from the steering committee, we'll revisit that in February. So I think Leanne Podruck on our board is going to be leading that discussion because she is on the steering committee and she was in attendance at that data webinar that they gave us. And so we'll have a little bit more information and be able to base our mission and vision statements on, not only what we do in general as a library, what we do in our specific communities, but also what our demographics say, what the public is looking for. How can we add the most value with the resources that we have? So that's really exciting stuff. We're going to do that. I think we're going to have some pre-work, and then towards the end of February, the steering committee will have another meeting where we really look at a draft in earnest and refine that. And then in April, I believe, will be the final presentation from the consultants to the library board with the final strategic plan in all of its glory. So with that, any questions, I'm happy to answer.
Okay, thank you, Leah. Any questions for Leah? Sounds like the library is educational and fun at the same time.
It is, and it's hopping.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Moving on to 7E, UW Extension Monthly Report. Jeremy.
All right, thank you again, Chair Seefeld. A couple of things to touch on besides the report that's in the packet. First off, thanks to Janelle for kicking us off with our program updates and discussion. As we talked about last month, we'll continue those monthly. We have them scheduled out. I think next month will be 4-H program, and then natural resources, agriculture, and food-wise to follow after that. So we'll do one of those each month, as long as you found that valuable. And again, we highly encourage any feedback into those programs. So if you have thoughts after this, Janelle's email is in the packet, but obviously also you can reach out to me with any ideas. Couple other things. The annual report we plan to bring to the next committee meetings, so we're working on that right now. That will include some of the information like Supervisor Baker asked about number of farms, but that'll be a summary of 2023. And next month we'll also talk about how we kind of advance that to the full board if we want to do a presentation with that, or however we want to handle that. And then the last kind of big thing aside from the educator report is over the past month we've continued conversations with the 4-H Leaders Federation. As you might remember, they are providing the funding for the 4-H associate educator Jasmine's position, half-time position. They've agreed to continue that funding for an additional 3 years, so that gets us out to 2027, maybe slightly longer than that, but they're providing $35,000 a year for that position. So that's a huge boost to the program. They also provide a bunch of additional support that allows us some of the funding to have AmeriCorps members. So it's great to have the partnership with the county and with the Leaders Federation to continue to build that program. We also recently brought in $5,000 from Connexus Credit Union to support some programming specifically. So lots of good things continue to go on in the 4-H program. And with that, I guess I'll open up if there are any questions related to the educators report or anything else. I'm happy to take those.
Any questions for Jeremy? Okay, thank you very much, and we'll be looking forward to next month's educational report. Moving on to 7F, UWSP WASA report. Is Miranda online? Miranda?
I am. Can y'all hear me all right?
Yes, we can.
All right. Well, thank you, Chair Seafelt. Our spring semester is underway now. We started, last week. It's hard to believe that it was just a week ago that classes started. So we've got a good start here. Students are all settled in their classes. We take our official enrollment snapshot for every semester once we get through the 10th day of classes, and the 10th day is tomorrow. So I will have our exact enrollment data to share next time, but we will be coming in over 300 by the estimates I've been looking at. February is a really busy month for us and a really fun month. So starting today, our kitchen is very busy with the food preparation for Marathon County Jail. So we are really glad to be able to help out with that and have that happening here. And I have to say, if I walk past the kitchen in the morning now, it smells really good with bread baking. We also have a couple of our biggest events that we do annually coming up this month. So on February 23rd, we're going to have our big career exploration day. We know we've got around 450 high school students coming so far. We may get some late enrolling schools. We have a lot of employers and educational partners coming. We're going to have a few more than we did last year, so it's been fun figuring out where we're going to put everybody, spreading them between our main building and the Center for Civic Engagement. So that is going to be a really, really fun and really busy day. We are also going to have our Admitted Student Day on Leap Day this year. It'll be on February 29th, and that is going to be a good experience for admitted students to come and get some more information to help them with their next steps as they prepare to start school in the fall. And they will also get priority registration for advising appointments, and we'll get a little bit of a jump on registering for fall classes over students who enroll later. And our Good Ideas Conference in January was a ton of fun too. We had, I believe, around 80 people attend that, and it was, and of course, it was, it seems like it never fails that when we have good ideas, that's when we have our worst weather. So we did have to pivot to virtual for that first day. And then the other 2 days of the conference were in person, and it was great to have some more activity on campus then. And we're really glad to have our students back now and have a lot more life in the building. And I will happily answer any questions.
Are there any questions for Miranda? Okay, thank you very much, Miranda.
Thank you.
Moving on to number 8, next meeting date, time, and announcements and future agenda items. 8A, committee members are asked to bring ideas for future discussion. Next meeting, Thursday, March 7th, 2024 at 3 p.m. Number 9, I'll take a motion to adjourn. Motion by Supervisor Rosenberg, second by Supervisor Book. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? We are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.